Hey people, it is Tuesday, August the 13th. The time is 5:08 in the afternoon. And it's about 27 degrees Celsius, feeling closer to 30 with the humidex here in downtown Toronto. I'm on the east side of downtown, down at the Esplanade and Lower Sherbourne. And Lower Sherbourne becomes Sherbourne Street as you head north of Front Street. So I'm going to head that way and continue walking along the length of Sherbourne Street as it passes through the east side of downtown, ending up at Bloor Street. So Sherbourne Street is a street that has probably the worst reputation of all the major downtown streets. But it's also a street that's going through a lot of changes, with many new developments transforming the street, some of which are underway right now and many others are proposed. So we just crossed the Esplanade, and we'll also pass through what is probably the sketchiest stretch of street in downtown. And that would be the stretch of Sherbourne between Queen and Dundas. That's a little ways ahead. But down here at this end, it's actually quite nice. And once you get north of Gerrard, it's not so bad either. It's just a short stretch that has earned it its bad reputation, really. This massive new condo development is almost complete now, called Time and Space. Takes up almost an entire city block by the looks of it. The construction hoarding has come down, and it looks like some of the empty retail spaces are about to be leased out. Hopefully, anyway. See some nice landscaping here, and there's a bike lane that runs along the length of Sherbourne Street. A nice protected bike lane on both sides. And here we are at Front Street. We're in the St. Lawrence Market neighborhood. So look west towards the financial district. And another new residential tower is on the rise here. That one will be quite nice when it's completed. It'll be about 39 stories and clad in red, which will make it stand out. It has this nice sort of curvy design. I'll probably change from one side of Sherbourne to the other as we continue on. You can see they've preserved an older historic building here, incorporating it into this development, or just the facades, facadism. So currently Sherbourne Street is only served by one subway line up at Bloor, where Sherbourne Station is. But in the future, there'll be a second subway line running across Sherbourne. That will be the Ontario line. And there'll be a new station at Moss Park called Moss Park Station. We'll be walking past that shortly. So this is Old Town, a lot of nice historic buildings all through this area. This is King Street. And I guess it is rush hour. I like to do these Sherbourne Street walks maybe once a year or so, where I walk along the full length just to see the changes as they take place. 1 year can bring quite a lot of change. It's crossing Adelaide. Once we get to Queen, that's where things will start to get a little sketchy. That's also where the new Ontario line subway is passing through, and Moss Park Station under construction there. Some great old former warehouses on this more southerly part of the street. This one's been converted to lofts. Many of them have historic plaques explaining their history and the year they were built, oftentimes in the 19th century in this part of town. Here's Richmond Street. Let's cross here, as long as we don't get run down. This bike path is quite busy at certain times of day. It's one of the only long, fully protected bike paths kind of traversing the whole east side from north to south. I never noticed this Burrito Bros here before. I wonder how they compare to Burrito Boys. I'll have to check out their menu. It's close enough to where I live if the prices beat Burrito Boys. I'm loyal, but I'm not that loyal. This building here on the corner, kind of in rough shape. I think it's slated to be redeveloped. And we're at Queen. So this is where things start to get interesting. You can see the Moss Park station under construction on that corner. That will bring huge changes to the neighborhood once the new subway line opens. I think lots of the developments proposed are in anticipation of that. Moss Park Discount Store, that's sort of a legendary establishment here in the neighborhood. I have yet to go inside. #501 Queen. This corner used to be full of interesting characters all the time, but since the construction started, they seem to have moved on. Maybe too many eyes on this corner now with all the work going on. Financial district over there. And the Sherbourne bus. That bus can be quite interesting. Now I'm going to hold the camera down a bit low since I'm walking past an area with some interesting characters, shall we say. This Dollarama is probably the most infamous location in the city. And got all kinds of competing music here along this block. Yep, that's pretty much what you expect to happen when you walk along here. It's because most of them are up to criminal activity much of the time, and they obviously don't want to be caught on video breaking laws. Crossing Shooter Street. So that was one of the two hot spots. The other one is up here at Dundas Street. Dundas and Sherbourne can be insanely active at times and strangely quiet at times. Just all depends on the time of day or the day of the week. But most of the craziest things that you might see taking place in Toronto, if you watch viral videos, tend to happen usually at Dundas and Sherbourne. Now, this big lot here is slated to be redeveloped with a new high-rise tower, I think with affordable housing. And just on this side, where these older 1960s era apartment towers are, there's a proposal to insert a couple more towers, intensifying the site. You can actually see this proposal here. Very tall towers compared to these older ones. And there's the famous house with the cameras that had its own YouTube channel. 230 Sherbourne is the name of that channel. I'm not sure if it's still up or not. And the infamous Sam's food store. Many an incident has taken place in that store. A quick Google search will no doubt bring some of those incidents up. And here's the intersection. Kind of quiet right now, as I said. It all depends on the time of day. On a warm summer night, sometimes there's all kinds of things happening around here. And I live just a stone's throw away from here, just a bit to the west. If you continue further east along Dundas here, you'll enter the Regent Park neighborhood. Yeah, pretty quiet right now at Dundas and Sherbourne. Oops. I wanted to zoom in there. There we go. The Sherbourne. Pretty magnificent here. There used to be many impressive mansions lining Sherbourne and Jarvis Street on the east side. Many of them still remain, but most of them are no longer being used as a residence. Or if they are, they've been divided up into multiple units. Some of the ones on Jarvis Street are now restaurants and bars and things of that nature. These ones still tend to be mostly used as apartments or rooming houses. And they have a lot of character. I think that's the former Kenny versus Spenny house from the TV show. Two guys trying to compete with each other in crazy challenges, mostly from inside that semi-detached home on the right-hand side there. I'd like to do a walk with Kenny Hotz from that show through this neighborhood. I thought it would be pretty fun. Maybe to walk up to the front door of the old Kenny versus Spenny house with him and give it a knock and see who answers. And then ask if we can go in and take a look around. Now this has been a vacant lot for as long as I've been living in the area, but it's currently about to be turned into a 21-story residential building, so that'll be a nice change. This one here, John Ross Robertson, lived in this house, 1881 to 1918. A publisher and philanthropist. It looks like that house might be part of this development here. It's all boarded up. Yeah, this one's completely covered with ivy. Quite nice. You can see all the way up to Young and Bloor off in the distance. The One, future super tall, climbing ever skyward. And another residential building is popping up here. This will be a mid-rise. That was also a long-time vacant lot.
Yeah, we didn't finish. But it wasn't actually that much.
Crossing Gerrard Street. There we got the Allen Gardens over here on this side. It's quite a nice park actually. It gets a bit of a bad rap. Not completely undeservedly though, but I've never had any issues walking through it, and I live literally just a minute away from it. I walk through it almost daily. There's still an encampment in Allen Gardens, as you can see. It's not as big though. It's shrunk quite a bit compared to a year ago, and especially maybe a year and a half or to 2 years ago. Maybe there are about a dozen to 15, 20 tents now. At one time I think there were over 75 tents. And it is hot. Be crossing Carlton Street. I don't know if I'll make this light though. And from this point on, really, Sherbourne Street isn't sketchy at all, in my opinion. Much like the more southerly part at the beginning of the video, it's just a pretty normal downtown street. Carlton going all the way to Main Street Station. It's a pretty long ride. I missed a little bit behind me, but there are a couple of old apartment buildings that do have a redevelopment notice for another tower that will incorporate the older buildings. And just up ahead on the other side here, another development proposal is slated to be built where the Phoenix Concert Theater currently stands. Here, and this building is all boarded up and empty at the moment. Tall residential building proposed to incorporate the old building. So there's the Phoenix across the street. It'll be a sad loss actually to see it go, but apparently the owners of the venue have already begun planning to relocate elsewhere downtown. And this parking lot also is slated to be turned into a new residential building. I think the Phoenix will continue operating until early next year though, so it's not gone yet. And this old low-rise office building is also part of that redevelopment. And it's kind of a mix of old 19th century homes and mid-century apartment buildings and more recent condominiums. all sort of mixed together. That describes much of downtown Toronto, really. Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic School. Not a lot of retail as you walk along Sherbourne, but there are some short stretches here and there. That place seems to be doing all right. It opened up a couple of years ago, Sweet Addictions. An awesome old low-rise apartment building. One of my favorites in the area. The main retail or commercial strip running north-south on the east side of downtown is Parliament Street. And that's just a bit further to the east, the next major street to the east. As we're kind of on the border of Cabbagetown and the Village here right now as we cross Wellesley Street. Cabbagetown to the east. And St. Jamestown also on this side. And a nice big public library branch, St. Jamestown branch. Looks like it's mid-century. Most of St. Jamestown was developed in the 1950s and 60s. At a community center. It's always busy every time I walk past here. Architect E.J. Lennox lived here in a house on this site from 1886 to 1915. The designer of Old City Hall and Casa Loma. And also the Stewart Building on College Street, which is one of my favorite downtown buildings. Casa Loma obviously is very famous, as is Old City Hall. Our Lady of Lourdes. An impressive dome. And we'll see more retail here as we walk past St. Jamestown at the base of these old towers. Here's a look into the neighborhood. And a Fresh Co that I go to fairly often. And there are a number of new towers going up in this end of the street also. You can see one up ahead under construction. This one is fairly new. It's sort of the first new building to be built in St. Jamestown in decades. But that sort of opened the floodgates for several more. More retail.
Uh-oh. Yeah. That's not good.
The Isabella Hotel. Pretty neat old building. Has an awesome fire escape on the other side. It always gets pretty busy here on this end. Getting closer to Sherbourne Station and Bloor Street. You can see the Aura off in the distance. And of course, Tim Hortons, Hall's Roti Shop. I think several of these old homes are also slated to be redeveloped with a new, very tall building. It will be preserved mostly. They're already all boarded up. And every time I walk past here, I always check up on this site to see if there's any movement, and there still isn't. Looks like they're just trying to drain all the water. This is a big pit that was dug for another new tower of about 50 stories. But for some reason it just stopped and has sat dormant for a good 6 months now. A couple of old mansions that were incorporated into these towers here. Maison Selby and the Selby. This is Howard Street. Kind of at the northern end of St. Jamestown now.
I don't really know, but like I know that it was. Oh, we should probably come out.
And I guess I can't avoid walking under the scaffolding unless I walk in the bike path, which I'd rather not do. But here we are, about to come upon Bloor Street and Sherbourne subway station. Once you go north of Bloor, you're considered sort of outside of the downtown. And Sherbourne Street continues on, but it really changes character because it passes through the Rosedale neighborhood, which is one of the most wealthy neighborhoods in the city and in the whole country. Suddenly becomes lined with mansions that are still being used as mansions, not like the older ones we saw earlier. And very busy here at Sherbourne Station. So I hope you enjoyed the walk along most of the length of Sherbourne Street as it passes through the east side of downtown. Talked about some of the new developments along the street, of which there are quite a few, and we did pass through the still sketchy stretch between Queen and Gerrard, mostly between Queen and Dundas. And we even had a little bit of a encounter with some interesting characters there. And continuing on up here to Bloor Street. So I hope you enjoyed. Leave a comment down below. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on Sherbourne Street if you have any. Will it always be the way it is, or will it turn into something different? I think it's transforming, and it won't always have its current reputation. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe as well.
Sorry?
And hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any of my videos. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are links in the description where you can do so via PayPal, as well as via my merch store. Or you can also support the channel by becoming a channel member, or by sending a super thanks if you prefer. And you can find me on Instagram also under KContinuum. So thanks for watching, and thanks to all the channel members. And be sure to keep checking back, because as always, I will continue.
Then I'll be